From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
A mother whose young daughter died after leaving ICE custody shares her heartbreaking story with Congress.
Families belong together.
Plus, nationwide immigration raids set to begin this weekend, impacting thousands.
And how this bug's loud buzzing could mean monsoon storms are headed our way.
Cronkite News starts now.
A mother whose toddler died weeks after they were released from ICE custody in 2018 recalled the death of her child in emotional testimony before House panel. Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Sabina Zovchik.
And I'm Gabriel Moreno. Thank you for joining us. Cronkite News reporter Julian Paras was at the hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday. He joins us live from our Washington bureau with the story. Julian?
At a hearing this week on conditions at immigration detention facilities, lawmakers and experts jockeyed to make their points heard. But all that jockeying stopped, and the room went silent when a Guatemalan mother told the story of her toddler's death after weeks in custody.
Pero estoy aquí porque el mundo debe saber lo que está sucediendo con tantos niños en las cárceles dentro de la detención de ICE.
Detention centers like this one in Texas, where Yasmin Juarez and her 21-month-old daughter Maria were held early last year after attempting to cross the border. Juarez told lawmakers Maria was healthy when they showed up. But after being crowded in with children who were ill and getting little help from medical staff, her daughter steadily worsened.
Al cabo de una semana, en Jalib, Mario se enfermó, mi niña.
Juarez was the emotional focus of the House Oversight and Reform Committee hearing on the Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention centers. Even the name of the hearing, Kids in Cages, was contentious.
As a member from Texas and a former staffer on the Senate Judiciary Committee, as a member of Congress, I've been to the border many times, and to this day I have never seen a kid in a cage the way those words seem to indicate it.
But Roy and every other member of the committee softened at Juarez's testimony, with Roy echoing Juarez's statement, "No hay palabras," there are no words. Juarez and other witnesses cited overcrowding, overworked medical staff, and haphazard care that included sloppy medical records.
What my concern is that if ICE medical records of migrants like Senora Juarez can be fabricated, which it appears that this one may have been, how many more fraudulent medical records might be out there?
But former ICE Director Ronald Vitello defended ICE agents, who he said are doing their best to handle an influx of migrants at facilities not set up for such numbers.
The negative things as it relates to their behavior and misconduct, yeah, that's not my experience of the culture of the Border Patrol. These are hardworking men and women who took the same oath that you did to protect this country, and that's what they're most interested in.
Juarez and her daughter were only one day out of ICE custody when the girl had to be taken to the emergency room. Several weeks later, she was dead of respiratory ailments. Juarez said she came forward despite the pain of Maria's death and hope that something can be done.
De cómo a mí me ha costado salir adelante sin tener que llevar a mi niña conmigo. Me quitaron un pedazo de mi corazón, me arrancaron el alma. Y ahora estoy sufriendo y me está costando levantarme y salir adelante.
The hearing came as new data showed. A sharp drop in migrants apprehended at the southwest border, from 144,000 in May to 104,000 in June, but still more than twice the levels from last June, bringing this year's total to 780,000, with still 3 months left in the fiscal year. In Washington, Julian Paras, Cronkite News.
Families belong together. Every person in America has rights. These families are hardworking members of our communities and our country. This brutal action will terrorize children and tear families apart.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement raids will begin Sunday. ICE officials will reportedly arrest thousands of undocumented immigrants, including those who may not be targeted, but happen to be on the scene. The agency originally planned to arrest families with court-ordered removals in 10 cities last month. President Trump delayed that operation to give Democrats and Republicans time to reach an agreement on the migrant crisis. That has not yet happened. The acting U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Director said Wednesday the raids are, quote, absolutely going to happen, close quote, though he declined to say when. According to The Times, reporting officials say authorities will try not to split up detained families.
President Donald Trump is expected to drop his bid to include a citizenship question on the 2020 census. He'll instead pursue other avenues for asking the question after the Supreme Court blocked his efforts, according to a current and former administration official familiar with the plans. Trump tweeted this morning that he'll be holding a news conference on the subject.
Allegations made against Arizona border agents have surfaced recently. They're accused of mistreating migrant children, including sexual assault.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection is conducting an investigation into the matter. Cronkite News reporter Amanda Slee is live with the latest. Amanda?
Leadership at Customs and Border Patrol say that any agent displaying this kind of behavior will be held accountable. As CBP finds itself embroiled with several scandals, they are vowing to get to the bottom of these newest accusations. Continue to cross the southern border, allegations of sexual abuse and retaliation made against Border Patrol officers by children has been put the agency on defense. In an interview with CNN, Mario Campos, president of the Border Patrol Union in Yuma, says this isn't the first time an investigation has patrol union in Yuma says this isn't the first time an investigation has happened as a result of an allegation made. According to Campos, several happen each year, and every case has been involved in has revealed the allegations to be unfounded. He also says each case is different. Normally, the Yuma Sector Border Patrol Union is the one that handles allegations by representing the agents.
Helping them write statements or representing them during an interview, to where we hire attorneys and we have to go through hearings, arbitration hearings.
But in this case, the investigation is being led by the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General. Campos went on to break down what an investigation looks like.
Usually go to the Office of Inspector General first, and then Office of Professional Responsibility. And then if either of those agencies deem that it's not necessary for them to investigate, they'll pass it on to our management inquiry team, which is an internal team within the agency that investigates allegations.
Although detentions at the border fell last month, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Campos says migrant centers are still overcrowding, creating inadequate facilities for both detainees and agents. Live in the control room, Amanda Slee, Cronkite News.
Right now, lawyers of Jeffrey Epstein, the former financier accused of running a sex trafficking ring, are arguing he should be held under house arrest with electronic monitoring pending his trial. However, prosecutors claim he could potentially flee to dodge charges. Epstein's bail hearing is set for Monday to address charges he sexually exploited and abused dozens of underage girls from 2002 to 2005.
Understanding the severity of sex trafficking begins with the victims themselves. Tonight, one victim is sharing her story to raise awareness. Cronkite News reporters Jake Gudrick and Alicia Longo share her journey in the sex trafficking world.
When I was growing up, I lived with my mom, and my dad wasn't really in the picture, and she struggled with drug addiction. My mom was diagnosed with cervical cancer. I ended up living with my stepdad, and me and my stepdad, we didn't really get along. After my mom had passed, it got into physical fights. I was at school one day, and my teacher was just asking me what was going on because I was having a really bad day, and he just tells me, like, I'm so sorry that this is happening to you, and he's like, I don't know what to do besides call CPS. One of these girls approached me, and she came up to me and she told me, she's like, hey, I've seen you sleeping out here for a couple of days. I have a boyfriend and I live with him. I know that you're not in a good place right now. Do you want to come stay with us? We walked to her house and I met her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was named Joker. And there was about 4 or 5 other girls living in the house with us. And I just thought they were all friends and everybody just kind of lived there, and he was just really cool. And he was super nice. He let me live with them. He would take me out to the movies. He would get my nails done. He'd do my hair, and I felt so great. He just kept telling me all the things that I needed to hear. I didn't have family at the time, and he told me that he'd be my family. And he told me that he'd be there for me, and those are the things that I needed to hear. But there was this one day where he had asked me, he was like, we're about to go somewhere. Do you want to come with us? And I said, where are you guys going? He's like, just come with us. We all went out, we drove to a motel, and we get out of the car and we walk into the motel. And from that moment, I feel like I started to understand what was going on. So we go into this hotel and there's another man in there just basically waiting for us. And Joker gets the money from him, and I watch her undress, and I watch her have sex with him. And he had told me, like, these are what these girls do. And he's like, I'm not asking you to be a part of this. I'm not asking you to lay yourself down with these men, but I am asking you to sit in on all the appointments that we have from now on. From that moment on, I went on every appointment with those girls. And that's when I started getting into drugs really heavy, because no one wants to do that sober. I had a mentor while I was in CPS, and she ended up introducing me to a family. It was almost unreal because of all the stuff that I had just been through, and the fact that they were there for me, and they said that they wanted to adopt me, these people that I didn't even know. And of course I said yes, because I didn't want to be anywhere else. And I felt so safe with them. And I've been with them ever since. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, that doesn't happen here, or it just doesn't happen in our backyards. But it's funny to me because it does, and I don't like that people are so closed-minded to it. They're like, no, it doesn't happen. That's only in other countries. It only happens over there. And I feel like they just need to realize that it is happening here.
While Cronkite News does not generally reveal identities of sex trafficking victims, Ferguson shared her story with us as her hope of making others aware of the dangers of trafficking and how it can happen to anyone.
A candlelight vigil will take place tonight at 8 in the parking lot of the NAU Sky Dome to honor former football player Malik Noshi. He was found unconscious Sunday in his Flagstaff home and was pronounced dead at the scene. The cause of death remains under investigation, but police say they do not suspect any foul play was involved. Noshi, who was from Las Vegas, began his football career at NAU in 2015 and earned an honorable mention from the Big Sky Conference last year. New information tonight on the death of a teen who was allegedly killed by a man who said the rap music the victim was listening to made him feel unsafe.
Now, there are pleas for the case to be considered a hate crime. Cronkite News reporter Taniya Williamson was at a news conference this morning. Taniya, what can you tell us?
Today, the Maricopa County attorney gave more information on what that process looks like. A memorial with a sign that reads, "We love you, Elijah. Rest easy, angel. Fly high," marks the memory of 17-year-old Elijah Alamin. The Peoria teenager was killed 1 week ago today inside the Circle K convenience store near 67th Avenue in Peoria. Authorities say he had just gotten off work when 27-year-old Michael Adams used the knife to end Alamin's life.
Yesterday, Maricopa County grand jurors returned an indictment charging the defendant with 1 count of first-degree murder. The indictment is not evidence of guilt, and the defendant is presumed to be not guilty.
Alamin's death has garnered national headlines. Adams telling investigators he heard Alamin listening to rap music in his car before entering the store, a genre that, according to Adams, makes him feel, quote, unsafe.
Elijah did nothing wrong. He was at a Circle K, or he was at a convenience store. He was just in there shopping, buying whatever a 17-year-old's going to buy.
The Twitter hashtag Justice for Elijah has been trending ever since police arrested Adams. He had been released from prison just 2 days before. His attorney saying he has mental health issues and did not have proper medication. There have been calls for Elijah's death to be considered a hate crime, something County Attorney Montgomery addressed today.
Specifically, where someone manifests evidence of prejudice based on race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender, or disability, can be found to be a hate crime.
If convicted, Adams could be sentenced to life in prison or death by lethal injection. He is scheduled to appear in court July 15th. In the broadcast center, Taniya Williamson, Cronkite News.
Coming up on Cronkite News, ants helping scientists discover antibodies? Yes, it's happening. The small-scale study that could have a big impact on the planet.
And Arizona schools showing improvements when it comes to testing. We'll tell you what categories some students ranked after the break.
All of its children had come to the Mother Church of Country Music. It was almost like a badge of honor that you had to bring your culture with you to the table. That's why Bob Wills and his guys brought us Western music. That's why Hank Williams brought the South with him from honky tonks. Johnny Cash brought the black land dirt of Arkansas. Bill Monroe brought music out of Kentucky bluegrass music. Willie Nelson brought his poetry from Texas. Patsy Cline brought her heartache from Virginia. I mean, it was the most wonderful parade of sons and daughters of America that brought their hearts and their souls and their experiences, and it gave us a great era in country music.
Humans and insects do have some things in common: diseases.
Scientists are digging deep to figure out exactly how some insects, especially ants, are creating their very own antibiotics. Take a look.
They're also diverse, so there's somewhere around 15,000 species of ants, and they've been successful on the planet now for somewhere around 150 million years. We think that most of the species have found ways to effectively deal with pathogens, but just like humans, new diseases arise and new colonies can get hit harder than others, and so that's probably their number one threat is disease. Ants live in these large colonies, they have a high interaction rate. It's just like humans in cities where that's where illness spreads. When someone gets a cold and they sneeze on a train, they can send that cold to hundreds if not thousands of others.
And just like humans, ants need a little help fighting off an infection.
The major goal of our study was to figure out if we can narrow down what species would be the most interesting to look at for future antibiotics. There's more different species of ants that live in Arizona than any other state. So this is an ideal location to continue our studies and look for other species that might produce antibiotic compounds.
First, Dr. Pennick needs to collect some ants to study.
We just walk up and down the streets, and because ants are so common, it's pretty easy to find. These are actually crazy ants, is what they're called. And so we actually study these, and these do produce some antimicrobials. And so what I'll do, I use this device. It's just called an aspirator, and it's essentially a mouth vacuum that you use to suck up ants, and they go through this nozzle into this container, and not in your mouth, thankfully, because we have a screen. So let's see here.
Dr. Pennick then takes the ants back to his lab.
In our research, we have to keep ants alive in the lab. And so we learn a lot about animal husbandry. How do you take care of an ant colony? What's an ant's favorite food? Each species has their sort of own requirements. And you start to notice some of them do get sick. So what we did is we would take ants that we collected outside and we would soak them in alcohol overnight. And then we would take that alcohol off, we would dry that down and resuspend it in basically bacteria food. And then we would add Staphylococcus epidermidis, which is a bacterium that's common, it's on human skin. Probably all of us have it on our skin right now. And so we found ants that produce active compounds that do kill bacteria. And so what we've really accomplished here is the first step in finding a new antibiotic. But the questions are now, do they actually work against something that's resistant to our antibiotics that we have now? But what is really fascinating to me is that these ants that sometimes are a nuisance, like fire ants, might actually help save our lives one day. And I think that is a pretty big deal.
One of the challenges with studying antibiotics that ants produce is that ants are really, really small.
And so if you're trying to extract an antibiotic or a medical compound from a plant, it's usually pretty easy. They have big leaves, you can get a lot of material. But for ants, you just don't have a lot to work with. Arizona schools are showing improvement on the National Assessment of Educational Progress. In fact, we were among the top 10 states that had the biggest improvement with math and reading scores for 4th and 8th graders. The National Assessment Governing Board tests a large group of students in every state to allow for comparisons between the states. The report cites more rigorous standards and state-supported initiatives and legislation for the uptick in scores.
The FCC voted yesterday to allow federally recognized tribes to get licenses to increase internet speeds in rural areas. The licenses could help tribes establish or expand broadband coverage in underserved areas. The filing window could open as early as December. The FCC vote also removed the educational use requirement for the spectrum.
Up next, how the sound of this creepy crawly could mean rain is headed our way. We'll tell you why after the break.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
The Santa Cruz County Sheriff says crews discovered the remains of a missing man while hiking rugged terrain in the Santa Rita Mountains near Tucson. They identified him as 82-year-old Harold Smallwood of Ohio. Crews found his remains after another hiker stumbled across the victim's fanny pack earlier in the week. Search efforts actually began in February after the man called 911 to report he was lost, but snowfall in the area complicated the rescue efforts.
A prickly scene unfolded in Tucson when a driver crashed into a cactus, causing it to go right through his windshield. Check this incredible image out. The driver sustained only minor injuries but was taken into custody after showing signs of impairment. Those creepy-looking cicadas are back, but they've come back later than usual and in lower numbers. That's according to entomologists at the University of Arizona. They say the appearance of cicadas means our Arizona weather could be sparking some monsoon storms soon. Even though there are fewer insects, their arrival is a good indicator of possible rain on the way.
A delay with the arrival of these insects in our monsoon storms is very interesting.
I'm curious if we'll see any major changes in our weather in the coming days. Bain Froney is joining us now with more on that. Hi, Bain.
Hey, guys. So thanks so much. So good news, there's no rain in our upcoming forecast this week, but with all these high temperatures going on, it's causing a lot of storms down in the south. So take a look. We're expecting some storms down south. Like I said, some dust storms. So if you are down south, be sure to be careful on those roads. You definitely want to be aware while driving because the dust is definitely on its way. So right now here in Phoenix, we are feeling temperatures of about 111 degrees right now. We take a look down in Tucson, about 108 degrees. We take a look up in the north or in Flagstaff, 81. And then Grand Canyon, once again, 81 as well. And then 95 up there in Page. Here in Phoenix, we're going to be cooling down just a little bit. Those triple digits we're going to be sticking with all throughout the night, about 101 by 10 o'clock. Those clouds are going to be sticking with us as well throughout the entire night. And they're going to be staying with us through Saturday. But Sunday, that sun is going to be coming right back out. 112 degrees is our expected high for that day, but it's not our expected high for the week. Our expected high for the week is actually 114 on Monday. We're expecting sunshine all the way through Tuesday, but then Wednesday, those clouds are coming back, but that should be cleared up by Thursday. Here in the Weather Center, I'm Bain Froney, Cronkite News.
Coming up, a pop icon makes a stop in our Grand Canyon state to take advantage of the nature of Havasupai Falls. We'll tell you who it is and what they were doing here next.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
It looks like the Havasupai Falls caught Beyonce's eye. This video shows a camera crew filming a new music video for the pop icon at the landmark location. The video that's plastered all over social media also shows Beyonce walking towards a helicopter after she finished filming. wearing a robe and a towel over her head. The highly sought-after location requires campers to get a permit for access, and those can only be reserved once a year and sell out quickly.
It's 7-Eleven Day. That means stores across the country are giving out free Slurpees from 11 to 7 tonight to celebrate the 50th anniversary of 7-Eleven.
The chain started giving away free Slurpees in 2002 to honor their birthday. The celebration stuck and has been going on every July 11th since.
On average, 7-Eleven says they plan to give away 9 million free small Slurpee drinks. The main Slurpee flavors you can get are wild cherry, Coca-Cola, pina colada, and blue raspberry. But this 7-Eleven is introducing a new flavor, blueberry lemonade. Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, researchers look to outer space to help find new cures for cancer. And we'll hear about a program that helps people with autism find work. That's on the next Arizona Horizon. Arizona Horizon.
Economics correspondent Paul Solman here in Humboldt County, California, with longtime marijuana grower Dylan Mattoll. And what's your biggest problem now that it's legal?
Paperwork, Paul.
On the next PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.